Hi everyone, welcome back to Math Tutoring. Today's lesson is on trigonometry on the law of sines. So let's start off with the law of sines first. So the law of sines is the following. Sine A over sine of angle A is equal to sine B over sine of angle B equal to sine C over sine of angle C. The law of sines can be expressed in this way, and we usually express it in this way when we're looking for a side. So when you have a triangle and you're looking for an unknown side, you will set up the law of sines in the following way. And the law of sines can also be written in the following way. Sine of angle A over side A is equal to sine of angle B over side B, sine of angle C over side C. So it can be expressed in either way, and this is usually the way we would set it up if we were looking for an unknown angle in a triangle using the law of sines. Now when you have these types of questions, triangles, and you're not sure which law to use, the rule that I always give is that if you can use the law of sines, use it, and then the law of cosines, which I will be doing in another lesson, is only used when you cannot use the law of sines. Okay, so let's start off with an example here of when you would use the law of sines to solve a specific type of question. So say you're given something like the following. So you have B, C, and A. Sorry, just one second. So you have B, A, B, and C. So side A is 226. Side C and side little b, and angle A is 32.5 degrees, and angle B is 49.7 degrees. Okay, and that's not as, it looks like a right triangle, but it isn't. So you'll know that by doing some math. We know that all the angles of a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. So this one obviously, if I add these two up, that difference is not, these two don't equal to 90, so that means this is not a right triangle. Because if these two added up to 90, then I know that this is 90, because all three angles have to add up to 180, okay? Now, so because all three, so when we look at something like this, now the question could say, okay, now just one second. Okay, so the question would say, solve triangle ABC where A is equal to 32.5 degrees, B is equal to 49.7 degrees, and A is equal to 226. So that's the question. So I would like to, should have wrote the question out first, and then I'm going to show you how I set up. If you're not given the actual diagram, you're going to have to set it up yourself. And I'll just show you how you would do that in a second. Okay. So, solve triangle ABC where A is equal to 32.5 degrees, B is equal to 49.7 degrees, and side A is equal to 226. So you draw a three-sided triangle, and you're told that you want to label it ABC in any order. Okay, so angle A is 32.5 degrees, angle B is 49.7 degrees, and then side A is 226. So little a represents side, and capital A is always, like, capital letters represent, in trigonometry, capital letters represent angles, and lowercase letters represent sides of the triangle. So in this case, little a is 226. So that is always across the angle. So it's the side that is directly across the angle. So it's this side right here. Okay, and you would know that because it's between the two other angles, B and C. So it's the one opposite, on the opposite side of this angle. So this here would be side C, and this would be side little b. Okay, so that's just so how you can see how the sides are. So if I have triangle ABC, like this, little a is here, little c is here, and little b is here. So that's important. There, it's always across the letter. Okay. Another note. So if we have, say, BCA, then little a would be this side, little b would be this side, and little c would be this side. So depending on how you set up your angles, your sides have to be the side that's across each angle. So side C is across angle C, wherever your angle C is, and then side B is across angle B, wherever your B is located. Okay, so now the question is saying solve triangle ABC, where A is equal to 32.5 degrees, B is equal to 49.7 degrees, and angle side A is equal to 226. So you write all that information in, and then we know the rule of triangles is that every triangle adds up to, all the angles of a triangle add up to 180. So if I have angles A and B, I can find C using that rule. Angle C is equal to 180 degrees minus the other two angles, so angle A and angle B. Okay, because in every triangle in mathematics, this always holds. In every triangle, all of the sides, so if this is A, B, and C, angle A plus angle B plus angle C will always equal 180 degrees. That always holds in mathematics. It's an important rule to remember. Okay, so that is angle A, angle B, and angle C. So they always add up to angle C, always add up to 180. So what you're going to do now is plug in your side A. So that is 32.5, and then angle B is equal to 49.7 degrees. So now what you're going to do is just go ahead and subtract them, and then you get your answer. Okay, so now we just figured out angle C very easily using the 180 rule for triangles. So we did 180 minus the other two, and we got angle C. So now using this, now that to find if you have a side or an angle, if you have, like in this ratio here, you only look at it from two parts. If you have any of the three parts, you can find the other missing part. So in this case, I've got side A and angle A. So I'm going to definitely use that in my, and I'm looking for another side because I've got all the angles now. So I've got this. So we figured out that C is 97.8 degrees. So now using that information, we've got angle, we can use the sine law to find another side. So, and obviously I'm going to use A because I've got both angle A and side A. And I'm going to use A to find any other side. So I can find C or B in any order. So I'm just going to go ahead and find, say, side C. And I'm going to use the sine law to do that. Oops, this is a C. Okay, and the reason I use A and not B and C is because with B I don't have a side, and with C I don't have a side, so I don't have enough information. But with A, I've got a corresponding side and angle, so I would use that. And then with C, I've got the angle, and so that only one thing that's unknown in the ratio, so we can go ahead and solve that. Okay, so you only want one unknown. You can't have two unknowns in your ratio. So plugging everything in here, I'm just going to go to the next page. So if we plug in, so going back to this, sine of A equals C over sine of C. So side A was 226, the angle was 32.5, and I'll just draw the triangle for you again over here somewhere. So angle A was 32.5 degrees, angle B was 49.7 degrees, and then angle C, side A was 226, little c, and little b. And we figured out that side C was, so we figured that out by doing math, so that part wasn't given in the question, 97.8. So we already figured that, degrees. So angles always have a degree with them, angle measures. So we plug this in. We don't know side C, but we do know angle C, so we use that. And then we can we can solve for C now. So we're going to cross multiply. So sine of 97.8 times 226 over sine of 32.5 degrees is equal to C. Okay, and working that out on the calculator, and you want to make sure your calculator is in degree mode, not radian mode, when you're working with degrees, so that's important. So make sure the mode of your calculator is in degree mode, or else you will get the wrong answer. You'll get your answer in radians. You will get radian measures instead. So side C is equal to 417 is the answer you should get. Okay, so then we figured out, so now we figured out side C. So we figured out that side C is equal to 417. Okay. So now we just have one more side that we're looking for, because we were asked to solve the triangle. So if you're asked to solve a triangle, that means you have to solve every side and every angle. Okay. So we're looking for side little b. So what we're going to do now is, now what we're going to do is, I always want to use the one that I'm given, so I'm going to stick with A as my main one, and I'm going to use B, this part, to find B. Okay, so A is 226, sine of A, the angle is 32.5, so I put that in. Side B is what I'm looking for, and I'm using the sine law again to find, this time I'm side B, and I've got angle B, so sine of 49.7 degrees. Okay. So again, cross multiplying, we get that B is equal to 226 times sine of 49.7 degrees divided by sine of 32.5 degrees. And then we finally get that B is equal to 321 as our final answer. So B is equal to 321. Okay, so that's our answer. So we use the sine law to solve that. And in mathematics, you want to always try to use the sine law. I find that it's much easier than the cosine law. The cosine law is much more complicated. I'm going to do a lesson on the cosine law, but when in doubt, always use the sine law. And when you see that you can't use the sine law to solve something, that's usually when you use the cosine. But I'll do that in another lesson. Okay. So now we just solved the triangle. So that's pretty much it. Okay, and this you would plug into the calculator. You plug this as 226 times. You would solve sine of 49.7 degrees and then multiply that decimal by 226. Probably better to do in that order. So do the trig part first, trigonometry. So do sine of 49.7 in the calculator first, and your calculator should be in degree mode. Then multiply that decimal by 226 and then divide by, and then sometimes it's better to actually do these parts first, like separately, and write the whole decimal down if you want, and then start multiplying. Or you can do it in brackets, so you could do 226 times and then put sine 49.7 in brackets on your calculator. That's probably a better idea. Divided by, so multiply it out first and then divide by sine of 32.5, and it should be in brackets in your calculator. I should have mentioned that, because if you don't put these in brackets, you could get the wrong answers. Okay, so let's go here to page 1. So over here, same thing. Where is it here? Actually, it's on the other page. Sorry, same thing over here. This should be in brackets when you plug this into the calculator. Okay, and that's how you would solve the triangle using the sine law. Let's see. We could do another example. I'm going to do an example where you're only given one angle and two sides. So in this one, we were given two angles and one side. Let's do another example here. Let's do an example where you're given solve triangle ABC if A is equal to 35.2 degrees, A is equal to 525, and C is equal to 412. So you're given one angle and two sides. So you just draw out A, B, and C, and you've got little b here, little a, and little c. So as you remember, the side is across the angle. Same thing here, same thing here. So to solve triangle ABC, if angle A is equal to 35.2, so you plug that in, side A is equal to 525, and side B is equal to, we don't have it, but we have side C, which is 412. Okay, now when I look at this question, what I look at first is where do I have both a side and an angle given. And I notice that for A, I've got the side and the angle. So I say, okay, I'm going to use the sine law. I'm definitely going to use A in that one because I've got both an angle and a side. So that's my go-to one. That's the go-to one that I'm going to use. And then now I can use that to find anything I want. So I could start with maybe angle C. So I'm going to go ahead and try to solve angle C first. So this time I'm going to write the sine law with the angles on top, just because it's easier to solve it when I'm looking for on top. I don't have to set up this way. I could start off the other way and then just rearrange it at the end. But that's why I introduced both forms to you in the beginning of the lesson, because I find that whatever you're looking for should be on the top, just to eliminate some steps at the end. So sine of A over, so that's why we set it up like this. So here, sine of 35.2 degrees over sine of A, which is 525, is equal to sine of C, which I don't know, over 412. And now I'm going to solve for C. So 412 times sine of 35.2 divided by 525 is equal to sine of C. So now you're going to solve this, but to solve for C, you actually have to take the sine inverse of this side. When you divide sine over here, it becomes sine inverse. So whatever this number is in your calculator, you're going to take the sine inverse of that. So you're going to solve the number, and then you're going to do sine inverse of that number. So when you actually solve this, you should get something like the following with a few other decimals. So 0.4523 and a few other decimals. You're going to plug that number in, and then to solve for angle C, you're going to take the sine inverse of that number. And again, your calculator should be in degree mode because we are working with degrees here in the question. And when you do that, you're going to get that angle C is equal to 26.9 degrees. Okay, so that would be your answer there. So now that I've got sides, now that I have angle C and I know that it's 26.9 degrees, I can use those two angles to easily find angle B. Angle B is equal to 180 minus 35.2 minus 26.9 degrees. So the 180 rule, once you have two angles, always easy to solve the third angle. And when I do, I get 117.9 degrees for the third angle. And now the only thing I'm missing here is, so I solve this, is 117.9. The only thing I'm missing is side B. So at this point, I can use... So once we do that, we can actually go ahead and solve whatever else we're looking for. So at this point, I'm going to say, let's solve side B. So we're going to go B over sine of B. And notice that this time I'm writing the side on top. And I can use A or C over here. I'm going to probably stick with A because it was given right away. So I know the numbers for sure are correct in case, if you make a mistake along the way. So it's good to use the ones that you're initially given in the question because you know they're correct. So A over sine of 35, sine of A. Okay, so B over sine of 117.9 degrees is equal to 525 over sine of 35.2 degrees. And now we're going to cross multiply, and when we do, we get that B equals sine of this times this divided by this. So B is equal to sine of 117.9 degrees times 525 divided by sine of 35.2 degrees. And remember, put these in brackets on your calculator. It's getting really messy. So little b is equal to 805. That's your final answer for side B. So B is equal to 805. We can put that in over here. Okay. So that we just solved that part. And in the calculator, you're going to do in brackets, sine of 117, close bracket, work it out, times 525, and then divide it by bracket, sine of 35.2, close bracket. You need the brackets because your answer can be thrown off. And that way you solve for sine of side B. And so that's how you would go ahead and solve that one. And like I said, I put the one with the sides on top just because I want to end up with B. So it's easier to solve. If it would be was on the bottom, I could still cross multiply and isolate B. It's not the only way to solve it, but I find that it's easier just to, whichever one you're looking for. If you're looking for an angle, put the angles on top, start with that, and the ratios on the bottom. If you're looking for sides, put the sides on top and put the ratios on the bottom. Make sure when you set up the ratio that the sides are on the same, like either both on the top or both on the bottom, and then the angles are either both on the top or both on the bottom. So they can't be mixed up. So the ratios, you have to be very careful with that. Okay, so that is the law of sines.